Hey friends, welcome in my kitchen. There are two reasons why we are chilling in the kitchen now. First of all, this is the least cluttered background that I can make work in the apartment now. And there is also a heat wave going on, and this is the coldest part of my apartment. There is also a fan running in the background. I really hope that the little magic Rode mic does not pick up the fan in the background, but that's for my personal safety, so you'll just have to deal with it anyway. So today I want to talk to you about a topic that has been on my mind quite a bit recently, because, you know, as per usual, this is becoming a recurring theme. I struggled a bit with what to talk about, and when it happens I always look back, look for advice. Obviously that's what I do. Usually when I get stuck I just look for someone who else has already figured it out, and then I follow their advice. And you know, there are all the find your niche, you know, do all these kind of content ideas, and it never really clicked with me because I didn't feel authentic when I did it. But there was one piece of advice which I liked a lot, which was, when you give the same advice to someone the third time, you should write it down, because it's probably valuable for more than those three people that you gave it to. And I really like that, because that kind of plays into your personal strengths and all that kind of stuff, and I really like that idea. So that's what we're gonna do today. The format is gonna be this Mad Lib kind of situation. I literally just set up the tripod, slap the microphone and the camera on top of it, and clicked record. So this is the kind of ad lib situation. I might come back and turn all of this ideas and content into a bit more of a structured video, or I might not. We will see about that. So yeah, let's ramble about this a bit. So what I wanted to talk about today is how to move to the Netherlands. That's probably the biggest clickbait title. I might actually use it because it sounds kind of funny. So yeah, you know, I moved to the Netherlands 2 years ago. There is actually a video on the channel about me announcing that I moved to the Netherlands, or that I will move to the Netherlands, and then I moved to the Netherlands, and that stopped me from making any videos, and then here we are. So I have been living here for almost 2 years now, give or take, and it's really been a journey. There was a learning curve to moving here, and you know, I kept in touch with a bunch of study association friends and university friends, and through them and through some other family, I became the go-to person in the friend group for advice when someone wants to come to study here, and prepare themselves, you know, okay, what do. And then I gave that little TED talk so many times that I really should have wrote it down, and then just send it to people, because I really think we perfected it. So it's mostly my experience. So that's a disclaimer. It might not generalize, you know, not financial advice, anything of the sort. And I also talked to a bunch of other internationals who also moved to the Netherlands from various places around the world. So I think it's a pretty comprehensive both outlook. Yeah, disclaimer, I am an EU citizen and I moved here as an EU citizen, so I do not know too much about the difficulties of getting a residence permit and stuff like that. I know that you can just do it, apply for a student visa, and then you get it for the duration of your studies. I do not know the details of that process, so that's a shortcoming of this little rambling session. But as an EU citizen, I'm pretty sure I have it figured out reasonably well. So yeah, obviously the biggest thing is, yeah, if you're an EU citizen, you don't need a visa or anything. Moving to the Netherlands basically is just coming here and then not leaving. That's about it. So that's great. And then obviously when you come here and you don't want to leave, you need to live somewhere. And that's where the situation becomes a bit more muddy, considering the Netherlands has the biggest housing crisis in Europe, that's for sure. I'm not sure if in the world. I wouldn't make that claim, but it's pretty bad. The situation regarding housing is pretty dire. So there are much more students, or just people who want to rent houses and live somewhere, than how many apartments are available. And that leads to two things. One of them is very, very high prices, and the other is that it's really difficult to find an apartment, even if you have money to burn. So the situation is not great, and like that's what like everyone like keeps scaring internationals with this. And I have to say it's for a pretty good reason. Like it's pretty dire out there. The two things. So like I will assume that you start your studies in September, mostly because I assume that you're a student if you're watching this. So if you start in September, I would advise starting to look for an apartment around May. And from May onward, if you find one that you like and is like sufficient, just take it and pay the extra month or 2 months of rent, if you can afford, obviously. If you can do that, definitely do, because what I did is I looked at apartments in May, and I was like, oh, there are plenty, it's great, it's like an abundance, you know, everyone was just talking in the air with the housing crisis. And then I arrived in August, and I was more or less homeless for 3 months. So don't do that. When you find something that you like, suck up the extra month or two of rent, and like lock it down, because around like late July, early August, mid-August, it becomes this absolute like Hunger Games situation where everyone wants to get their hands on an apartment, and it becomes really, really, really difficult to get one. Yeah, so just find something that you like. What I recommend people to do is that you talk to a bunch of like people who want to rent out a room or an apartment. We'll talk about the differences a bit later. And I would try to line up a few viewings for yourself. So like you would come, like I advise to come and see them in person, because scamming is very big. As you can imagine, desperate internationals with good money really want to get a room, and then, you know, like the scams are everywhere. It's really, really bad. Like I personally know a handful of people who paid money to like a very reputable looking person or agency or something, and then they got scammed, and then they just disappeared, and they were out like, I don't know, 1,600 euros, which is quite unfortunate. So definitely check the apartment out in person, and always get paperwork before you pay money. It feels strange that I have to say this, but yeah, you never know. So just like, yeah, don't get scammed, kids, because it's not good for you. So definitely check out the apartments in person. So what I recommend is, I don't know, like come out to the Netherlands, like spend a week here, and line up as many viewings for apartments as you humanly can. Yeah, as many as you can do. I think that makes sure that the apartment actually looks like the pictures, which is not a given. It makes sure that you are not scammed. It doesn't make sure that you're not scammed. There are very elaborate scams, but like it improves your likelihood of not getting scammed. So that's also nice. And you can actually get a sense of like where the apartment is, because like when you look at Google Maps, like the distance is a bit weird, and then, you know, you can get a feel of the neighborhood, you know, like if you see any like people walking dogs or like strollers, you know, you can like be kind of chill. If you don't see anyone on the street and like all the windows are like barred up, you can be like, do you want to live there? Just kidding, there are not many neighborhoods like that in the Netherlands, so you should be fine. So yeah, just figure out as many viewings as possible, and then just try to line them up as good as your schedule allows. Yeah, you can expect quite a few rejections. I remember that when I was applying, I sent around 60, 70 applications, or like my applications, to various websites and Facebook and all that, and I got 1 or 2 replies. So it's not great, definitely not great. So what I recommend people to do is, like, if you're hunting for a room, so like you can rent a studio, which is, you know, like you have your own bathroom and your own kitchen and you live alone, and that's what I do. You have your own front door, that's legally important. Or you can rent a room where you share a bathroom or a kitchen or both with multiple people, and you just have your own little space. Renting a room is usually cheaper, almost always cheaper, unless you end up with some miracle studio. So renting a room is almost always cheaper, but you also, it's a bit harder to get, in the sense that you need to convince your future roommates that they want to live with you. And considering the housing crisis, you know, like for every room, I remember the statistic in Tilburg a few years back was 1 against 40-ish for every single room. And then last year it was probably over 100 applications for a single room. So the competition is fierce. Whereas with studios, you know, like you don't need to convince like a council of future roommates about yourself. So that's nice. If you want a room, so you have to convince the council. The way it usually works in the Netherlands is they have like this like kijkavond, which like is like a viewing night, where they just like invite the most promising roommate candidates, and it's like a little party, you know, like everyone is just like mingling a bit and just like chilling, and that is how like they decide who was the most like sympathetic. Sympathetic is the nervous system, so I assume sympathetic, I guess. Yeah, so be prepared, like that's like the kijkavond is a thing, the viewing night is a thing, so that's just nothing out of the ordinary. One thing that I gave as advice to people, and it worked pretty well, is make a roommate CV of yourself, which sounds pretty funny, but hear me out. So you can just go to Canva, you know, canva.com, the graphic designs website, amazing, it makes your CV very nice, and literally everything else very nice. So go to Canva and you can put together a little like PDF of yourself, you know, like as if you would apply for a job, but you can like highlight yourself as a roommate, you know, like what are your hobbies, your pastime activities, you know, like if you can cook well, and like be sure to like include as many pictures of like you in fun places or like in your element as you can. Okay, so apparently I reached the limit of the camera's recording capabilities. That was nice. I hope it's not overheating, because that would be very awkward. So what was that? Roommate CV. Yes, roommate CV. So make the roommate CV include as many pictures of yourself in your element as possible, because it will help you a lot with like standing out, you know, like if you like try on Facebook, which I recommend, by the way. Facebook groups are good if you want to find a room. You will just like you will be one between like the, I don't know, tens and 50s and hundreds of messages. So any way you can stand out is pretty nice. So roommate CV, amazing move. It really worked out for a lot of people. Okay. Oh yeah, otherwise, yeah, money wise, yeah, if you rent a room, you just pay the amount that they tell you. Like room prices vary from like 250-ish, that's a very low range, and it's, I would advise against, but it's like I know people who lived for like 250-ish euros a month, and then, you know, like standard room prices run around like 300, 400, 500 euros, so like you can expect that a month, give or take. And then studios run from like more on the 7, 8, 9, 1k range. But what is important, money, as we are on money, that you can get a rent allowance. It's called huurtoeslag in Dutch, and basically the government pays you money. Like it's like an allowance, you know, so you don't starve. On rooms you can't get them, so you need a studio, so you need your own kitchen, bathroom and front door. If that's all, like you have all of those on your own, then you can get possibly can get rent allowance. There is like a maximum rent which is allowed, where you can get like the rent allowance. So like, you know, obviously you cannot rent like a super high-end apartment and then expect the government to just like subsidize you luxurious living. But like if you are above 23, the rent cap is pretty generous. I don't exactly remember the numbers. I will put something in the description, like a link for it or something where you can find it. So that's something to keep in mind, because if you're renting a studio, chances are, or like you have a chance to like get some money back on it, and that can help a lot. I also get like allowance on it. I got lucky with the rent limit. I'm just like 20 cents below the ceiling, so it's really nice. So yeah, okay. I think that was all my housing tips, more or less. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So housing done. You probably are kind of shocked by the numbers that you are paying for rent, and that means that you probably want money, which is understandable. Okay, so with regards to working in the Netherlands, which is a big one, especially for like EU internationals. So yeah, part-time work is very big in the country. So, you know, like working like 8 to 14, 15, 16 hours a week besides your studies is like reasonably standard. So you can expect to find like a part-time job pretty easily. So if you want to work, you should be fine working. So there is not much holding you back there. Yeah, the hourly wage kind of scales with like the minimum wage scales with age. I think around like 18 you max out. So like if you're above 18, you will just earn like adult minimum wage, I believe. But you can like really well supplement your like living with some work on the side. And if you're an EU international, and I'm sorry, all my non-EU international friends, but this only applies to EU citizens. So there is a law, like an EU law, that like EU members are not allowed to like discriminate other EU's member countries' citizens if they are like self-sustaining members within the country. So, you know, like if you're a Dutch student, there is like a thing called like studiefinanciering. Something like that. It's like a student financing package from the government. And with that, you know, like you get free public transport, which is huge. Public transport costs a lot of money. So getting that for free is amazing. And you can also get some like additional grant, like basically like free money from the government if your like family household limit threshold is low enough. If you come from more like Eastern European countries, the limit you are usually below the limit. So that's pretty chill. But so that's for Dutch students. Yeah, as an international, you are not entitled to all the good stuff, the free OV and the grant. But if you qualify as a self-sustaining member, like a self-sustaining member of the Dutch society, then you cannot be discriminated according to EU law, and they have to give you the same benefits, which they do. The threshold for a self-sustaining member of Dutch society is working 56 hours a month at the minimum. Obviously, you can work more to be more self-sustaining, but 56 hours a month is the magic number. Once you work that amount, you can just apply and get the same like student financing package as Dutch people do, and you can get the free public transport, and you can get the extra money if you qualify, and it's in general just super nice. So the move as an international, an EU international, apologies. So as an EU international, the move is to come here and start working 56 hours a month as quick as you humanly can, because you will make bank with it, you know, like, so like you will earn the money 56 hours a month, that's 14 hours a week, which is pretty doable. Besides most studies, you can do that reasonably okay in everyone's experience. So you earn the money there, which is nice. It will be like between like $500 and $800, give or take, a month. So you have that money, which is nice. And then you don't have to pay for public transport, which will run you anywhere between like 50 and €1 million a month, depending on how much you travel. And you can also get that like extra gift grant from the government, which runs up to like $400, I think, if you are like the lowest income bracket. So that's, you know, if you hit 56 hours, you're doing pretty well. So that's the move for everyone. Like, try to get to 56 hours a month, and then apply for that like student financing package, and then you'll get it, and it's nice. Yeah, so that's about working. What else? Oh yeah, when it comes to public transport, if you cannot make the working work, totally understandable, or you don't want to, that's also fine. So you should get like a personalized public transport card. It's called OV chip card, and you want to have a personalized one, because when you have a personalized one, it's tied to your Dutch bank account, and you can get subscriptions on it, and like the cheapest subscription is like $6 a month, but it gets you like 40% off of the train prices outside of like the rush hour, so you can travel during the day and during the weekends for 40% off, which goes a long way with the train prices. And so yeah, definitely do that. Oh yeah, With regards to the Dutch bank account, of course, how could I forget? So the steps as you move here. So assume you find a room, you move to that room, and then you register to that given municipality where you moved into. And then the municipality will be kind enough and give you like a burger service number. So it's basically like a social security number, more or less. And then with that, you can open a Dutch bank account. Which you should do, because when you come here, so I come from Hungary, at home, like debit cards tied to bank accounts are usually MasterCard or Visa in weird cases, but usually like everything runs on MasterCard. It's not a credit card, it's a debit card, but it's a MasterCard. And when you come here, the Dutch system likes their own banks much more, and the Dutch banking system runs on like Maestro debit cards. And if you think, you know, like, oh yeah, I just won't have that, it's fine. It's not fine, because if you go to the biggest grocery store chain in the country, which is Albert Heijn, they do not accept anything but Maestro cards. So you do want to open a Dutch bank account. You need that if you want to work. So that's also there. If you want to work, health insurance. You need health insurance. You can just get a health insurance. It will look mad expensive at first, so you can expect anywhere between like 120 and a million euros a month. But that is also subsidized by the government, so you can just apply for their like health insurance subsidy, and then you get money back, and then it will end up costing you around like 10 to 20 bucks a month for your insurance, which is pretty standard. Like that's the same in most countries with the subsidy, so that's pretty chill. What else do we need to cover when you move to the Netherlands? I think this might be it. I have no idea how long I have been talking, but I also hope that like this video gave you like a reasonable idea on how to move here, because it cut me off again. So yeah, I really hope that this video was helpful. I probably will revisit it either as like a blog post or like a proper like nice shiny infotainment video. This was just a little Mad Lib. Yeah, I really hope that this is helpful. Yeah, thanks for watching.